In today's chess video, not only do I show you a game where I beat a master level player in 8 moves in a long classical game, but also show you how you can do it too. Let's get straight into it. Alright, some context behind this game to make things a little bit interesting is that this was one of the final rounds in a long tournament. I think it was a 7-round tournament at one of the clubs I used to play, and me winning this game would be extremely important in me ending up getting tied for first place in this championship tournament. Now, I needed to win in this position. And you might be asking why I'm not playing my favorite openings like pawn d4 at this point. Well, I knew that pawn e4 was an opening where if you need to win and not just get a draw against someone high rated like this 2300 rated player, you need to play aggressive. And that's what e4 helps me do. And I have a lot of tricks that I like to play in the e4 opening that I'll show you guys in future videos, so make sure to subscribe. But after pawn e4 in this position, I knew my opponent was a Sicilian player. I knew that he really enjoyed this pawn c5 move, and I played a normal knight f3 and he played pawn to d6. So as you guys can see, my opponent is also trying to win in this position. He's playing one of the most aggressive openings in the world, the Sicilian defense against e4, and he fully expects me to play pawn to d4. But my philosophy in chess is if you guys want to improve, if you guys want to get better and want to get your title, one of the best things you can do is not go into your opponent's preparation. Why would I play an opening my opponent knows better than me, is my philosophy. So one move that I really like to play in these positions is pawn to c3. And this pawn c3 move, it's not good according to the engine. It makes this position completely equal for black, but this is a position that can get your opponent extremely confused. And, one bad mess up, and they could just lose the game. And so the main line here, now this is not what my master level player here played. He, in this position, played knight c6, which is an awfully terrible move, which already gives white a big advantage. But the main line here is knight f6. And the reason why I like this opening is because of the fact it's so tricky. Back when I was a kid and I was still playing a lot of national tournaments, I would catch 1900, 2000 rated players in like actual long tournaments for some reason. They would just take this pawn on e4 for some reason, and I would just win because I'm just up a piece. Let's see if you guys can find the move. It's nothing too hard, but when you're playing an opening that you think you're better than your opponent, the issue is sometimes you get overconfident. And that's why this opening, which is called the delayed Alapin, is so tough, because if your opponent messes up, they lose. And the idea here is you just play queen a4 and you win the knight and you win. Well, you check the king and the knight, you fork them together, and you win the game. And there's a lot of different variations of this, and I can show you guys one more variation here real quick. And let's just say he plays knight c6, pawn d4. In this position, a lot of people think it's completely safe to capture on e4, but this position is still losing for black, and I've had many people fall for this too for some reason. But you just play pawn d5. And the knight has to go anywhere. It doesn't really matter where it goes. Let's just say it goes back to home square. You just have queen e4 and you win the knight this way. So again, there's so many tricks in this opening. But my opponent here decided not to play the main line, which is still tricky. But he decided to play a bad line, which is knight c6. Now, knight c6, you might be thinking, why is this a bad move? Well, it's not that it's a bad move, but it's a move that doesn't do anything. It just lets us, as white, do the move that we wanted to play. Now, what was the move we wanted to play, you might ask? Well, the move is just pawn d4. We really wanted to play pawn to d4 in this position because it gains you a lot of space. And I don't think I've ever lost a real game where I got into this position. In a classical game now, I probably lost many bullet games. But this opening is just so strong. Because the idea of pawn d4 is that, we're going to gain a lot of space. We're going to play pawn d5 in the future. What are you going to do about it? And a lot of people don't know what to do. And my opponent here decided, you know what? He decided to play bishop g4. He decided to give us a little bit of a pin in this position. But this is already a small mistake by our opponent. So let's see how we can take advantage of this. And so the move that I decided to play here was pawn to d5. Now, pawn d5 is a space gaining move. And it's a move that forces your opponent to move his knight somewhere. So I want you guys to pause the video right now, okay? Take a look and actually type in the comments below. No cheating, no skipping to the end of this video, guys. But I want you guys to tell me where you would move this knight for black. Imagine you were playing black here, okay? And this wasn't really, it's not a puzzle or anything. Just imagine this was your own game. You're playing black. What would you guys play in this position? Would you move the knight back? Would you move the knight forward? Would you move the knight here? Would you move the knight there? Would you move the knight to a5? Maybe give a little bit of an in-between move with bishop takes f3 perhaps? A lot of different moves that you can go for here. So let's see what you guys come up with. Now pause your videos. I'm just going to tell you guys the answer. So continue at your own risk. But the only good move here in this position is knight back to b8. Now you might be wondering, okay, why is knight a5 not a good move? And these two moves are pretty obvious why they're not good. They're just free knights. But knight a5 is not good because of the fact that you could just play pawn b4 and the knight is surprisingly trapped. There's nowhere that the knight can go. And so in this position, we're just completely better. We're just up a knight. Life is good. Now, in this position though, I think most of you guys and my opponent also came up with this move extremely quickly. They decided to play knight e5. And knight e5 is probably the worst move in this position. But it's the move that my opponent decided to play. And here, I thought for maybe 30 seconds, because I was like, this can't be right. And so I want you guys to pause your videos again and let me know in the comments below. What would you play in this position? Like actually, as white, what would you play? Would you play something like bishop e2, break the pin? If he's not careful, maybe we can take on e5. Would you play pawn h3, trying to break this pin in this position? Would you try to play like queen a4 check and then take knight e5 if his knight is still there? Would you just give a random bishop check over here? What would you guys play? So take a second, pause the videos. Let me know in the comments below if you guys what you guys got. No cheating again. I'm going to tell you the answer now. And this is how I beat a master level player in 8 moves. Because after knight e5, I just took his knight. And my opponent didn't really think for a second here. He just decided to take my queen on d1. Like 2 seconds in, he just took my queen on d1. And he was like smiling. He was like, this guy's trolling. He's terrible at the game. But he wasn't laughing very long. Because after I played bishop e5 check, you could see the horror, the realization seeping into his face. As after bishop b5 check, there's no way for him to block his king from being attacked other than queen to d7. That's the only move our opponent can play here. That's not a move you want to see. Because after queen d7, not only you lose the queen back, but it gets even worse. Because after I took his queen, he moves the king to d8. It's our move in this position. And we just utterly destroy him here. Because we don't take the rook. I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking after knight takes, bishop captures, the best move is to take the rook. And that's okay. I mean, that's okay. You're still up a lot of material if you take here. But to rub, to turn the knife inside his already stabbed wound here, I just take the bishop. You might be thinking why I take the bishop when the rook is worth more, but if you think about it, the bishop can escape. Can his rook escape? No. And so in this position, after realizing that this was about to happen, my opponent essentially gave up. He just resigned. He was like, what? He was like, so sad. And you could see, he was an old man. He was like, you could see tears maybe welling up in his eyes. But the best thing was, I was the top board of this tournament. After like this 5 to 10 minute game in a 1 hour, 30 minute long, on each side tournament, people thought we just agreed to a quick draw because that's what grandmasters do. But I'm not like a grandmaster. I win my games in 5 minutes. I don't lose them, and I don't draw them for sure. So let me know if you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want to see more stories like this one. I have a couple more that are a little bit interesting in my, path to National Master and beyond that. A lot of very funny games, but this is one of my most memorable games where I beat a master level player extremely quickly. If you enjoyed the video, press like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.